Hello, yes, so this is a science of tradition video, synchronicity, subtlety, and emotion. And we're finding again that science is catching up with tradition and cultures from ancient times, right? And so they're starting to study synchronicity, and those rhythms of nature and how there's seems to be more to it than just coincidence, right? And so as I was coming up through ceremonies and that, I was always told that when I ask questions, to pay attention to the synchronicities and the subtleties and the emotions, right? So synchronicities are the external prompts. When you ask a question, when you put something out there that, synchronize. Subtlety is like an internal whisper prompting you to examine your emotions, and so it prompts you to look within and recognize an aspect to your life that's in need of purification or healing, and what emotions or thoughts are barriers to the growth in that area. You got to gently replace these with positive thoughts and support yourself with an open heart. Let love and forgiveness guide your way. So what are the questions that we're saying for people to ask, and whether they're in ceremony, whether it's getting your name or sweat lodge or hamblecha or Sundance, who am I? Why am I here? What do I want for my life as far as a family, a career, my healing? What do I have to offer myself, my companion, my family, my community? What are my skills, my talents, my gifts? And ultimately, what is my purpose for being here, right? And so, there's therapeutic gardening. There's just personal practices, private meditations, but it still ties into the big picture of the greenhouse and all that goes along with that, because everything has that rhythm of nature. And with the greenhouse in particular, we're asking to work with nature in a way that allows us to grow food year round, right? And so in doing that, when I went into that garden, when I first started gardening at that community garden, I went there just to fill my time, just because I was going crazy from my injury and being stuck inside. And just participating healed me in a way. If I would have known about this kind of stuff before that, I could have, focused in that way. But even just stumbling through without knowing, there was that connection with nature. All right. So synchronicity. This one is this article is called "The Consciousness Code: Sound, Frequency, and Synchronicity." They're talking about sound being a broader sense, not just hearing sound, but the vibrations and oscillations in nature, right? Since the beginning of human civilization, history has shown a correlation between sound and cognitive, mental, and physical wellness. In most experiences, sound is part of a larger context. All right, so they're just saying again that they're talking about it in more of a scientific definition, where that goes beyond hearing sound. When an object is in motion, it's oscillating. Movement is in vibration. Frequency is a measure of how many times per second that motion repeats, right? Psychology and frequency. So this is just describing the abstract for the studies that they did. Entrainment. So we're looking at the different practices, sweat lodge, just meditation. Otherwise, what the process is going on physically in that, right? So entrainment, although the aforementioned studies are emotional correlation, sound frequency. All right. Entrainment is an organic rhythm that mirrors the rhythm of the stimuli. In nature, a maple leaf will fly the same speed as the wind gust. The stick will float as fast or as slow as the river's current. In moon cycle synchronization, women who spend a lot of time together menstruate at the same time. In sound healing, the brainwave frequency locks into phase with an oscillating sound frequency from the use of instruments to vibrate a calmer harmonic state. When brainwave entrainment elicits this relaxation response, the body's metabolism and circulation slows down, lowering the heart rate, pulse rate, and blood pressure, and can even lead to a drop in body temperature. This physiological phenomenon is not only the basis of inducing deep relaxation, enhanced focus, trance, reflection, and sleep, but also introduces a broader conversation about the heart of the connection between science and of consciousness and synchronicity. To explore the waves of synchronicity through entrainment and meditative practices, it's important to consider consider meditation as it relates to not only business, education, and self-help cultures in the West, but also as a system of rhythmic vibration on a neurobiological development of the brain. A search on the word meditation on PubMed yields nearly 10,000 articles. One study revealed the brain's activation during focused attention, open monitoring, and self-transcending meditations by distinct EEG patterns. Another study estimated the brains of meditators at the age of 50 are 7.5 years younger than the controls. Therefore, it is evident that the effects of entrainment or the ability of an oscillating body to synchronize with another system and a meditative practice directly affect brain patterns, consciousness, mindfulness, and awareness. And so that other thing is nature, in just your meditation or even in a group, right? Given their omnipresent and ubiquitous nature, rhythms are embedded in psychological processes, social interactions, and sensory input. Synchronicity is a rhythm, is an organic form of nature. Similar to any vibrating system, synchronicity is characterized by rhythmic stimulation. In the next article, synchronicity will be examined through a lens of consciousness, awareness, and neurobiology of meditation as it relates to sonics and entrainment in order to coalesce the recognition of rhythmic patterns in nature. All right, so how to be aware of them, right? And so that this article, that follow-up is the riding the waves of rhythm, frequency, and levels of awareness. All right, rhythm, where synchronicity meets sonics and science. Rhythm is a symphonic pattern of all life and the basis of biological evolution. Frequencies, timbres, and the passage of beats through time and space form rhythms, the carrier of life information that governs a variety of neurobiological functions, biochemical interactions, and the way we hear sound with the whole body. The notion of intimate relationship between sound and neurobiology is echoed in the words of Sufi musician, healer, and mystic Hazrat Inaya Khan. So right there again, they're pointing out that sound is a carrier wave. You can attach other information to that. A person does not hear sound through ears. He hears sound through every pore of his body. It permeates the entire being, and according to its particular influence, either slows or quickens the rhythm of the blood circulation. It either awakens or soothes the nervous system. It arouses a person to greater passions, or it calms him by bringing him peace. According to the sound and its influence on certain effects is produced. Sound becomes visible in the form of radiance. This shows that the same energy which goes into the form of sound before being visible is absorbed by the physical body, and that way the physical body recuperates and becomes charged with new magnetism. Again, like I said, sound, any frequency can be a carrier wave for other things. Healing, love, maybe not good things. Signals, from signals to expressions to states of being. Mindfulness meditation creates awareness that forms from intentionally paying attention to the present moment without judgment. Currently a highly practiced and popular form of wellness, mindfulness meditation increases the volume of gray matter in the posterior cingulate cortex, supramarginal gyrus, and hippocampus, and decreases amygdala volume. Through long-term practice, meditation reduces internal perceptual noise and increases one's perceptual sensitivity to meaningful stimuli. So that means you're going to be more aware of the subtle, and so you're when you put those questions out there, it's showing that over time you'll be able to recognize and understand those responses easier. Religious chanting can become a form of mindful meditation through attention to breathing and prayer, which holistically integrates the complex and multifaceted tiers of consciousness and awareness. A form of entrainment, religious chanting can quiet fears, transcend quotidian mind, and help individuals cope with hardship. A study combined advanced multimodal electrophysiological measurements and neuroimaging to investigate the neural correlates of chanting Amitabha Buddha. It showed increased endogenous neural oscillations and low-frequency delta band in the posterior cingulate cortex. Strong delta waves are also localized in several brain regions during slow-wave sleep and have proposed to act as inhibitory brain oscillations that prevent sources of distractions from interfering with internally focused concentration. These changes have little to do with implicit language processes in the meditation. They're related to the focused, intentional acts of concentration and observation through the conscious desire and contemplation of compassion, as well as a group entrainment. As a result of this reduction in our self-oriented thoughts and suspension of sensory monitoring, religious chanting is an effective practice, is an active practice that leads to a self-modulated state of entrained observation of synchronicities. So it's saying that whether you feel like you're good at it or not, when you do it, it automatically does its own thing. It's got a mechanical process that will take you to a place where you, like a muscle, it's going to get stronger. It just is. All right. Sound frequency and synchronicity can proliferate scientific innovation. Synchronicity awareness and meaning detection are fostering emerging discussions of the correlation between frequency and meaning. While current tools to assess individual differences in synchronicity contain ambiguity, sound frequency introduces not only a focused inquiry into meaning detection, but also a grounded means for scientific innovation. Researchers from Stanford University have developed a way to hear seizures by converting the brain's electrical signals into sound. By listening to the tone, they are able to understand the audible differences between a seizing brain and a normal one. Another Stanford study used acoustics to recognize the patterns of heart cells, about 100 million cells to fit in the space of a sugar cube, indicating a subtle change in frequency and amplitude guides the cells into new patterns and secures them in place. Acoustics can be used to create forms that resemble natural cardiac tissue and regenerate damaged parts of the heart and other organ tissues and blood vessels. So they're saying that in this study, they're able to essentially take sound and use it like a three-dimensional printer for these cells to create heart cells, organ tissues, blood vessels. I mean, that's crazy. But it lends back to these traditional practices where they're using songs and music, healing ceremonies, and how they work. The synchronicity between natural frequency and brain rhythms. Between 1952 and 1954, physicist Winfried Otto Schumann and his successor Herbert Koenig measured a set of frequencies with the mathematical model predicting an Earth ionospheric cavity resonance. The frequency of the first Schumann resonance is approximately 7.83 hertz, while others are close to 14, 20, 26, 33, 39, and 54 or 45 hertz, closely overlapping with human brain waves. I've always been taught that the Schumann resonance is the mind of Mother Earth, right? Koenig reported two concepts: the similarity between frequency produced by the brain and the Schumann resonance, and the tendency of EEG brain rhythms to become synchronous with the Schumann resonance activity. And I said, so the Schumann resonance is Mother Nature's mind, and that is connected to each and every one of us. And that goes back to those that we are extensions of nature, and so we can look to nature for understanding. Accumulating evidence shows that changes in solar and geomagnetic activity overlap with physiological rhythms and fields. Nobel Prize winner Luc Montagnier work claims that genetic information and DNA can be transmitted into pure water when they're both subjected jointly to an electromagnetic field using Schumann resonance as a mode. Rutger Weaver showed that significant disruption in circadian rhythm and emotional distress in and around underground bunkers shielded from the natural magnetic and electrical fields. After short exposure to 10 hertz, the health of these volunteers restabilized. So they're saying that when people are separated from that rhythm of nature, they get sick, but just a little bit of reconnecting with that gets them back into that place. So that, again, that's another kind of practice is grounding, getting that rhythm throughout your body. NASA demonstrates that slight variations of terrestrial frequency can be as low as 8 hertz, consistent with the frequency that marks the region between theta and alpha bands. Relevant neurophysiological studies show a confounding relationship between conscious and subconscious experience in mindful meditation. Theta waves are strong during meditation, prayer, and spiritual awareness, and alpha waves bridge the conscious to the subconscious where sensation, abstract thinking, and self-control become real. So you think about the subconscious versus the conscious. Conscious is just, that's like the iceberg. Navigating the inner landscape to access synchronicity. We know natural frequency plays a key role in mechanisms that facilitate attention, memory, complex thinking, and affects degrees of sensitivity of perception. As many clinical studies have distinguished music therapy to do. The neurophysiological mechanism that underlines the assumption that people perceive more meaningful coincidences introduces a compelling question. Now that a strong correlation between human physiological rhythms and Schumann resonance is distinguished, what steps are we committing to nurture our relationship with the oscillating vibrations of our planet's electromagnetic field? Right? So, again, like I said, science is catching up with tradition. This is, I think, common knowledge throughout most of the old practices, that there's synchronicity, so there can't be, we in tradition we get people, the naysayers or whatever, saying it's coincidence, pareidolia, so what we're finding is that, there's, something to be said when you're looking at the fire as a firekeeper and learning that energy, that you may see what looks like a little girl dancing around in there, or you may see a face, right? Or you might see a face in the trees when you're dancing, or when you're in ceremony, or in the bark of the tree, and that sometimes it might be period, it just might be shadows or whatever, but sometimes that might be nature looking at you and telling you, prompting you to do something, and that, as we as human beings have that ability to assess our inner compass, and base our lives, our choices on that guidance, right? And so, like I said, nature is the only thing that has axioms, and they're showing now how we're all related. Mitakuye Oyasin, we're all related. We all come from that source. We're all unfoldments, right? So, as we go forward, like I said, science is just kind of going to be that launch pad for our youth, and it's telling us to act accordingly. So, again, I appreciate your time, and I'll see you shortly again. Hope.